Today we are going to discuss the topic body fluids and defense mechanism. Blood. It is basically a connective tissue in fluid form. It is called as the fluid of life as it carries oxygen from lungs to all parts of the body and carbon dioxide from all parts of the body to the lungs. Blood cells. Red blood cells or erythrocytes, white blood cells or leukocytes, platelets or thrombocytes. Red blood cells or RBC or erythrocytes. It is most abundant cell in the blood. Formed in the bone marrow, mature form don't have a nucleus. Shaped as a biconcave disc. Lifespan of about 125 days. Hemoglobin is found in RBC. Hemoglobin carries oxygen from lungs to the rest of the body and carbon dioxide binds to the RBC and is taken to the lungs to be exhaled. White blood cells or leukocytes. It is the large size blood cells. It is lowest number in the blood. Formed in the bone marrow and some in lymph glands. Primary cells of the immune system fight diseases and foreign invaders that contain nuclei with DNA. Certain WBCs produce antibodies. Lifespan is from 24 hours to several years. Sizes of 8 to 20 micrometers in diameter. There are 5 different types of WBCs: neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, lymphocytes, and monocytes. Platelets. Thrombocytes or platelets formed in the bone marrow, fragments from the cytoplasm of megakaryocytes. Smallest of the blood cells, shape can be round, oval, or appear spiky. Lifespan is about 8 to 12 days. Body fluids and defense. Body fluids like blood and lymph play an important role in defense mechanism. These body fluids follow different strategies like controlling the entry of germs into body, neutralizing germs and the toxic substances they produce, prevent their multiplication, etc. Let us examine how plays an important role in defense system. Blood and defense. White blood cells plays an important role in defense. Role of blood cells in defense. Neutrophils, also known as polymorphonuclear leukocytes, common type of white blood cells in the body. It engulfs bacteria, synthesizes chemicals that destroys bacteria. Basophil. These are white blood cells that bone marrow makes. These cells are loaded with granules which are filled with various proteins and chemicals. Stimulates the other white blood cells, dilates the blood vessels. Eosinophils. These cells contains granules full of molecules that kills the cells the immune system has marked for destruction. They help clear parasitic infections and mediate inflammation. Monocytes. These white blood cells mostly stored in spleen. Their function is to replenish resident macrophages and dendrite cells. Another function is to respond to inflammation signals by moving quickly to the sites of infection. Inflammatory response. Inflammatory response: when a wound occurs that part swells up. This is called inflammatory response. Previous illustration explained how inflammatory response takes place. These cells get damaged by a wound or by infection, produce certain chemical substances. These substances dilate capillaries, thereby increasing the blood flow. Blood plasma and more WBC reach the wound site as swelling occurs. This defense mechanism is known as inflammatory response. Phagocytosis is the process of engulfing and destroying of germs. The cells that are engaged in the process are phagocytes. The white blood cells, namely monocytes and neutrophils, are phagocytes. Blood clotting is a defense mechanism. The change that takes place during blood clotting is consolidated below. Tissues and platelets at the site of wound degenerate to form an enzyme called thromboplastin. Prothrombin in plasma is changed to thrombin and fibrinogen to fibrin fibers. The RBC cells and the platelets get entangled in the network of fibrin fibers to form the blood clot. Healing of wound. Healing of wound is a stage after inflammatory response and blood clotting. When a wound occurs, new similar tissue are found in place of tissues damaged or lost by wound. But in cases when new similar tissue cannot be formed, the connective tissue heals the wound. In such situation, wound scars remains. Infection through the wound slows down the healing process. A strong defense system accelerates the process of wound healing and reduces the chance of infection. Lymphocyte. constitute 20 to 40% of the WBC cells and 99% cells in the lymph. Circulates continuously in the blood and lymph and migrates the tissue spaces. Pathogens that enters the body and stimulate the defense mechanisms. And called antigens, the defense mechanism that identifies the structure of each antigen and destroys it specifically is called specific defense. White blood cells called lymphocytes are capable of destroying pathogens this way. There are two types, B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. Lymphocytes formed in the bone marrow and mature in bone marrow are called B lymphocytes. Produces certain proteins that act as antigens called antibodies. Antibodies destroy the pathogens in three different ways. Destroy the bacteria by disintegrating the cell membrane, neutralize the toxin of antigens, destroy the pathogens by stimulating other WBC cells. Lymphocytes formed in bone marrow and mature in thymus glands are called T lymphocytes. Stimulates other defense cells of the body, destroys the cell affected by virus, destroy cancerous cells. Lymph. Lymph is a clear to white fluid made of white blood cells, especially lymphocytes, the cell that attack bacteria in the blood and blood tissues. Fluid from the intestine called chyle, which contains proteins and fats. Functions of lymph. It keeps the body cell moist. It transports oxygen, hormones and nutrients to different parts of the body and remove metabolic waste from the cell. It transports active bodies and lymphocytes to the blood, maintaining the composition of tissue fluid and the volume of blood, prevents invasion of microbes and foreign substances inside the lymph nodes. Conclusion. Blood and lymph are the two main body fluids in the human body. Blood comprises plasma, WBCs, RBCs and platelets. Lymph comprises lymphocytes. The blood transports nutrient waste and gases throughout the body. Lymph transport nutrient hormones and gases. The blood flows through the circulatory system either through the blood body cavities through closed tube vessels. Lymph flows through the lymphatic system. Thank you.